Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. It's cynicism and demagoguery. These are the words of politicians of the ruling Law and Justice Party regarding the attempts of the opposition to link the budget for public media with an alleged reduction in the funds to treat cancer patients. The opposition has appealed to the President, Andrzej Duda, to veto the bill allocating almost 2 billion zloty for the public media.
The opposition has warned about the worsening state of public health care, growing lines for doctors, and the closing of hospitals, and has appealed to the government for a quick increase in funding for health care. Łukasz Szumowski, the Minister of Health, in turn stated that the budget for oncology is quickly growing. Last year, the National Health Fund received a record-high contribution. By the beginning of February, the Polish government had adopted the National Oncology Strategy, a program introducing changes to curing cancer for the years 2020-2030, with a budget of 11 billion zloty. Minister Szumowski also added that it's not the case of how much is going to be spent on oncology, but how it is spent, and that it's a matter for medical experts, not politicians who are often ruled by emotions. Nonetheless, it's becoming more and more apparent that the subject of healthcare is going to be very important in the upcoming presidential elections. It needs to end. We've had enough of the government's hypocrisy and their arrogance. It's time for the money to be properly spent and for oncology to receive more funds in a short time.
Aby nakłady wzrastały bardzo szybko.
Panie prezydencie, jest gotowe weto.
Mr. President, we have the veto ready right here. All it takes is for you to sign it, nothing more. At the same time, we will be proposing an amendment to the bill allocating the 2 billion zloty that would otherwise go to public media to oncology.
Bo my złożymy poprawkę w Senacie.
W 2020 roku planujemy wydać...
In 2020, we plan to spend 11 billion zloty on oncology. Of course, it doesn't include funds for doctors of first contact who also deal with patients fighting cancer. As you can see, 11 billion zloty is 3 billion zloty more than in the year 2015.
President
Andrzej Duda has already received the bill allocating funds for public media and has now 21 days to decide whether to veto it, sign it, or forward it to the Constitutional Tribunal.
Negotiations on the new European Union budget so far suggest that there will be sharp clashes between EU member states. Poland is seeking greater transfers from the European Union's Cohesion Fund and other funds earmarked for agriculture. Poland is also questioning the mechanism to link the receipt of funds, with Poland towing the line on those of its judicial reforms that are opposed by the European Union Commission because the criteria for this are not clear.
Konrad Szymański, Minister for European Affairs, said after the Monday meeting of the EU's foreign ministers in Brussels that the chances of agreement on this new issue for the Union's budget at the announcement of Thursday's Leaders' Summit are minimal. Certainly, everyone comes to the summit with a goodwill to seek agreement, but the positions of the member states remain very far apart. I would be surprised if it turned out that it was possible to reach agreement under these political conditions at this meeting. Poland is in a group of countries that oppose cuts in cohesion funds and in agriculture. In turn, countries that pay more to the EU budget than they receive from it, for instance net payers, demand the largest reduction of expenses. Opposition politicians present the objective circumstance, which is Brexit, which will result in a reduction in the union budget, as a failure attributable to the Law and Justice Party. If the budget is lower than for 2014-2020, then this is a huge failure. If there is less money for the common agricultural policy, for all matters also related to, example, environmental protection, it is very bad for Poland. We will do everything to reverse it and change it in the European Parliament, but it is Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki and the ruling party who have power today, and they are negotiating the budget. We will see. These conditions are not optimistic yet. According to the politicians of the ruling party, a long political game over the budget has begun, and the final result will depend to a significant degree on the skills of Polish negotiators. The element of linking these payments with the judicial reform is a negotiating element aimed at softening Poland's stand, but we know that the budget is a stacked puzzle. For example, under the common agricultural policy, we have common interests with France, in other aspects with other countries, so this requires such skillful playing on several pianos. I hope that the Polish negotiators are well prepared for this battle, which will certainly not end at this one meeting. Politicians of the so-called Old Union argue that the budget in its current shape is too large despite the current cuts. According to commentators, the negotiations over this issue may be the most difficult in the history of the European community.
Minister of Family, Labour and Social Policy, Marlene Malong, has announced that the 13th pension programme, an annual additional pension payment of 1,100 zloty, will be paid in April this year. According to the minister, the 13th pension will not in any way affect the social payments for the disabled, despite statements to that effect made by opposition politicians.
Absolutnie wypłata.
The payment of the annual 13 pension will not harm the social bonuses for the disabled. Every program that we introduce will be extended. The 500-plus program for the disabled, building assisted living communities, hiring assistants for the disabled. Every single program that we introduce will be continued. These programs don't harm the disabled in any way. What's more, we gave more than 10 billion zlotys more for the disabled than the Civic Platform Party gave during its term of office. If we add the additional sources to this amount of money, it will be 12 billion zlotys, which is 12 billion zlotys more than the Civic Platform Party and the Polish People's Party gave.
Speaker of the Senate, Tomasz Grodzki, a Civic Platform politician, has filed a lawsuit against Tomasz Sakiewicz, editor-in-chief of the Gazeta Polska newspaper. The lawsuit concerns publication of reports of people claiming to have given bribes to Grodzki when he was in charge of the hospital in Szczecin's Dunów. Sakiewicz claims that Marshal Grodzki, by attempting to sue him, is actually trying to halt free speech.
The lawsuits announced by Marshal Grodzki were intended to intimidate witnesses, to stop journalists from writing and publishing more stories. The dozens of people who have reported to the Central Anti-Corruption Bureau and to journalists testifying about the corrupt behavior of the dead and head of one of Szczecin's hospitals, and today's Marshal Grodzki not only deeply immerse him, but also immerse the entire political formation with which he is associated. They simply want to silence the matter, hence the lawsuit and this type of legal action. On the one hand, they want to put me in jail, and on the other hand, they also demand money. They want me to remove my tweets, my entries. Mr. Grodzki was represented by the same lawyer who represents Judge Juszczyn. What a coincidence. However, when it comes to the criminal trial, I really appreciate the lawyer's effort. They put in a lot of effort to put a muzzle on me. I'm afraid that with these courts, I'm facing a Senate Speaker envelope gate.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Do stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.
Welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at tonight's map. In the whole country we are expecting rainfalls except Olsztyn and Gdańsk. Night ahead of us will be warm. Temperature will range from 4 degrees in Olsztyn and Koszalin to 6 degrees on the southeast. Now have a look at the map for tomorrow. It will be a pleasant day with plenty of sunlight. Sun will be shining across Poland. Warmer on the south. There we will notice 7 degrees. The minimum temperature we will see in Olsztyn and Bydgoszcz, 4 degrees. Let's see the forecast for the next days. On Thursday, snowfall will occur on the east. Plenty of sun will appear over Katowice. On Friday, temperature will increase to 8 degrees in Koszalin. On the north, little rainfalls are expected. On Saturday, temperature will rise again to 10 degrees on the northwest. Much more rainfall will appear in the whole country. Thank you for watching and see you soon.
Poland Daily Business. Tonight we'll talk about shortages of water and possible drought in Poland. That's unheard of situation since years, but the Minister of Maritime Economy said that a couple of days ago, that if we will not have big rainfall this spring, this year may be the drought year, the biggest in 50 years. Piotr Arak of Polish Economical Institute is our guest, so welcome to the show.
Good evening.
And please tell us, will that have significant impact for Polish economy?
What we have with Poland is a very big problem with water absorption. So we're one of the countries which has the least number, or the shortest number Poland has a water shortage, basically. It's one of the only European countries which has such a low absorption rate of water and rainfall water. So what this means is if we don't have rainfalls, we don't have winter and snow, this means that during during summertime, if we don't have absorbed and often enough water.
You're basically saying that the water that falls eventually to Poland eventually flows down to Baltic Sea.
Yeah.
We cannot use it in any economical sense.
Yeah. So this means that if we have drought, then we don't have enough vegetables, for example. And 2017, 2018, 2019 were also the years where we had drought, and also not enough rainfall in order to sustain the water levels in the rivers and in the melioration systems that we had in our country. Flood, the issue we had at the end of 90s and sometime at in 2000s is not a matter anymore of the near future. What we had is the possibilities of drought because of the precious resource of water is being depleted, and we didn't invest enough during the last 15 or 20 years in melioration. So in those kinds of systems that would keep water inside the country.
The building of the dams, for example, is also very difficult due to the environmental restrictions. There is a plan of a big dam on the Wisla River, the biggest river in Poland, and it was protested heavily by hundreds of eco-friendly organizations saying that this dam will destroy some kind of bird or anything. But the people in this area, or the producers, have no water to produce, so they go bankrupt. They will go for welfare, or I don't know.
Yeah. Well, what one could say that we had very short-sighted politicians during those times, because they thought that the biggest challenge is that first of all was the I would say, problematics with the investment projects, but also the systems that we put in place and dams or other kinds of ways to mitigate with floods were dry. So we didn't have enough places to keep water when the water was flooding and the rains were bigger than normal, than typically during those times. And this is the biggest issue. Absorption of water mitigates the levels of CO2 created in this country. So this is also an eco-friendly element. And also, if you have a system of enough water tanks and water keeping institutions, artificial lakes that could be created, you also have some leisure time possibilities created for the society. And this is something I think that needs to be one of the most important things and investment projects in the next couple of years, because we won't manage to create that in the next couple of months when the drought comes. We expect that. And this is also a factor that is going to increase the inflation rate, probably as we had 3.4 inflation in the consumer basket in December 2019. It's probably during the first quarter of 2020, it's going to reach the levels of 4%, which is quite high in terms of the developed world. So, and this is not an issue only for Poland. This is a challenge for Slovakia. This is also a challenge for Czech Republic and Hungary. Those are the V4 countries are the most affected because of the levels of water absorption. So they also need to create amelioration systems in order to have higher intake of water and elements of artificial lakes or whatever in order to keep the water in their country for the next years, because you could have years of drought for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. This is a dead end for the agriculture, as important for this part of Europe.
Right. Minister Grubarczyk said that he wants to convince the farmers to collect the water, to build the small tanks that will preserve the flooding water. Right now is 6.5% of the rainfall that is being kept in, and we need to bring that up to 40%, which is the European average.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I say that, you know, individual and small projects are very important, but it's also needed to have some bigger artificial lakes created with cooperation of the self-governments. This is very important. We need a bigger scale of projects in that terms, and this means a lot of investments needed, and also I think a lot of cash for that in the next years.
And everything boils down to the lack of cash. Piotr Arak, Polish Economic Institute. Sir, thank you very much for this conversation. And that was it for tonight's Poland Daily Business.
I'm Aleksandra Zarzycka and welcome back to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tomorrow. It will be a pleasant day with plenty of sunlight. Sun will be shining across Poland. Warmer on the south, there we will notice 7 degrees. The minimum temperature we will see in Olsztyn and Bydgoszcz, 4 degrees. And now let's see tomorrow's forecast for our continent. On the Iberian Peninsula, temperature will hover around 14 degrees. In Central Europe, we are expecting alternating rainfalls and sunlight. Rainfall will appear in British Islands as well. Still warm in the Balkans. There, the temperature will range from 12 to 15 degrees in Athens. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Good day, everyone. My name is Maria Kądzielska, and you are watching Poland Daily Culture. I don't really need to introduce my today's guest. Abby Johnson is one of the most recognizable anti-abortion activists in the world. Her book, Unplanned, and later a film based on it, started a massive debate in the world. Abby, thank you for finding time to be with us.
Of course, thank you.
But before we start the interview, let's see a part of the movie Unplanned.
Abby Johnson is in the other room.
Here.
Our first order of business is to present Planned Parenthood's Employee of the Year Award. Abby Johnson.
This is Abby. She's our newest volunteer escort. Abby, this is Cheryl D'Alessandro.
I'd be the youngest director in Planned Parenthood history.
You'll actually be in charge of the abortions at your clinic?
I have a chance to make a real difference.
Abby, first of all, huge congratulations for this book and the movie and for the courage to tell the story.
Thank you.
And I would like to start with something probably which you already told so many times, but could you tell us about this one day which basically changed your life and what you've seen on the screen?
Yeah, I was called in to assist during an ultrasound guided abortion. Ultrasound is not typically used during an abortion procedure, but this doctor was using it that day, and I witnessed a 13-week-old baby in the womb fight for his life against the abortion instruments. And I saw then that there was humanity in the womb, and I knew that I was on the wrong side of this debate, and I had been on the wrong side of this debate for many years. So I ended up leaving Planned Parenthood and joining the pro-life fight.
And but it hasn't been easy to leave Planned Parenthood, and there have been repercussions, yes? What kind of?
Yeah, when I left and when Planned Parenthood realized that I was now pro-life and I was against abortion, they actually took me to court. They tried to get a gag order against me, so I wouldn't be able to share my story and what I knew. That obviously failed. But no, I mean, it was a scary time. I mean, leaving behind everything that you've known for the past 8 years, it was definitely a scary time.
So you needed to leave your friends also who identify themselves with being pro-choice. And moreover, what really surprised me is the fact that you've been Episcopalian and your church told you that you're no longer welcome.
Yeah.
How is it even possible? Is it like that abortion became kind of way of life or fashion even in the U.S.?
Yeah, I mean, it's very different in the U.S., you know. Different denominations in the United States, they take a stand on abortion one way or the other. The Episcopal Church in the U.S., very for abortion. You know, our Episcopal priest would send women to my clinic to have abortions. So when I became publicly pro-life, that's when I was called in and, you know, he basically said, you're not welcome in the Episcopal Church in America anymore. And it was a shock. I mean, you would think that places of faith would want anyone, right, to come and worship with them. But in the U.S., this is just a polarized debate. It's even seeped its way into the churches.
So as the statistic shows, in 2016, there were more than 600,000 legal induced abortions reported to CDS. So I would say, just to say comparison, we are right now in Warsaw. It's one of the fourth of Warsaw. It's huge amount of babies which are not born and not given chance to live. I understand there are different situations, but in ways when abortion is treated as anti-conception, which I think started in US, your voice became so important. So tell me, you wrote a book about it. What was the best reaction to your book, and what was the worst reaction to your book?
You know, I mean, it was amazing. I mean, the book has been, along with the film, probably the best reactions that I've gotten have been from people who have said, you know, I was considering having an abortion, and now I read your book, I saw the movie, and now I'm not going to have an abortion. Now I'm going to have my child, which is, that's the whole point of why I do what I do, right, is to save the lives of these babies. So that's probably the best reaction. But I also, surprisingly, also started hearing from other people who worked in abortion clinics who wanted to leave, who read the book, saw the movie, and they said, you know, I have a story that's similar to yours. I want to leave too. Can you help? So that was surprising. I mean, you know, worst reactions, I mean, I don't know. Being called a liar is never fun, right? But here's the thing. People who are pro-choice, people who support abortion, they have to believe that my story is a lie, right? Because if they actually believe that it's true, then that's going to change the entire debate, right? They have to admit that abortion is cruelty against a child in the womb, that it's barbaric, that it's painful for the child in the womb. So it's much easier to run from the truth and to call someone a liar than to embrace it, because then you have to turn your back on everything that you've believed. And that's hard, because I know, because that's what I did. And it's hard to realize that something that you've believed in for so long is not true.
If you'd like to put a message to people who are, for example, not sure, undecided, who also the need to face abortion, for example, but are undecided on which side they are, what would you tell them?
You know, I would tell them to read the book, read Unplanned, you know, read my story. You know, we gave a lot of information intentionally about not just the unborn, but about what abortion actually is and how it's damaging to women. I mean, I think a lot of people support abortion because they think it's helping women. But if you look at what's happening to these women, it's not helping them, it's hurting them. And so really try to gather facts, you know, look at pictures of babies in the womb. I mean, how can you look at a child in the womb and say that this isn't a child deserving of life. So, gather information, read articles, and I do encourage people to read the book, Unplanned, and to also see the film.
Probably is the best message to say, if you're not sure, read Unplanned and watch a movie which also was distributed in Polish theaters and learn the story of Abby Johnson, who however you judge her, she is one of the most courageous person to stand up for what she believed in. And thank you for watching Poland Daily Culture.
Welcome to Poland Daily History with me, Nicholas Richardson. And in this episode, we're going to look some more at Poland's early history. And I'm joined again by Professor Jabłonka. Professor, welcome. Poland's first king Mieszko appeared in the 10th century, and yet by the 12th century, Poland was beginning to suffer some fragmentation. Could you explain what happened? And why?
Pierwszym historycznym władcą Polski jest rzeczywiście Mieszko I. W 966 przyjmuje chrzest.
The first historical ruler of Poland was indeed Mieszko I. He was baptized in 966, and from that moment the written history of Poland begins. His ancestor was Piast Kołodziej, his great-grandfather, and hence the whole dynasty is called the Piast dynasty. Mieszko himself became famous mainly for centralizing Poland out of various lands, but one fact is the most important in his life. He had a son, Bolesław. He was Bolesław the Great. He cemented the whole Western Slavic region, including Bohemia, Moravia, Slovakia, the Elbe, even part of Prussia. He was called the ruler of Polonorum et Getorum, that is, Poles and some mysterious Goths, which are considered to be Prussians, Jadwings, and other Baltic peoples. This monarchy fell apart. It was at that time the Slavic Empire. A separate Poland began to exist. His son and then his grandchildren still kept Poland as a whole, but it was a dilemma, because having two sons always exposes the country to civil war. This was also the case, unfortunately, after the death of Władysław I, who had an older son, Zbigniew, and a younger, Bolesław. They fought a fratricidal struggle between them, because one of the brothers brought in external enemies, and the other one blinded him for it. The older brother died, leaving the younger alive. To prevent the dynasty from expiring, he was lucky to have 5 sons. We do not count the daughters, because they were to be married somewhere else, but there were 5 sons. Each of them received separate districts, or regions, at the time of his father's death. The most important son, the firstborn, received the middle region. Unfortunately, this brother was very jealous, because he had a different mother than the rest of the brothers. His mother was Ruthenian, and the other one was German. This is a classic illustration of the specific location of Poland. Brothers from one mother rebelled against the older brother. He wanted revenge and was cursed by the bishop, the Archbishop of Poland, for committing a crime. He was thus deprived of his right to power. Then the brothers banished him, and he still bears the nickname Wygnaniec, that is Władysław II, the exile. It was only then that Poland was permanently divided into districts. The second son receives the land of Mazovia, where we are now, that is Warsaw, Kujawy with Toruń. The third brother, Mieszko, received Wielkopolska, and the fourth brother received the land of Sandomierz in the south. The fifth brother was still a child, but he fulfilled the most important role. His descendants would consolidate Poland in the future. Eventually, the lands of the Polish kingdom would be divided into 6 historical districts. They are, in a way, still valid today. We would just add the 7th district, Pomerania. So the most important district was Lesser Poland, as there was the capital, Kraków. That was still the informal capital, capital because the formal capital was still Gniezno, where the coronations of kings took place. It was the region of Greater Poland. Between Greater Poland and Lesser Poland, there was a middle one, called Sieradzland. North of it was Mazovia and Silesia in the southwest. Finally, the previously mentioned Pomerania, which was divided into two parts, was directly incorporated into Poland. That was Gdańsk. The western part, where Szczecin is, was the fiefdom of the sideline of the Piast dynasty, called Gryfice.
Zachodnia, gdzie jest Szczecin, stanowiła lenno bocznej linii Piastów zwanych Gryfitami.
So, Professor, if I could ask, how long was this period of fragmentation and what lasting effect did it have on Poland, if any?
Przyjmuje się, że owo rozbicie dzielnicowe.
It is assumed that this districtal breakdown lasted about 200 years. 185 exactly. Such an ending event was the coronation of Władysław Łokietek, whose 700th anniversary we are now celebrating. On January 20th, 1320, the Archbishop of Gniezno put the crown on the head of our king, who was of small height, which compensated with a very high crown. From that moment on, Kraków formally became the capital of Poland. However, earlier the Piasts were not aware that they were tearing the homeland to pieces until the enemies attacked us from outside. There were three great invasions, the first one being of course an invasion of the German Empire. It has always threatened us, and it has come to the handover of Western Pomerania to the German Empire. Bogusław was the first to pay homage to Emperor Frederick Barbarossa in Lubeck. The state of Pomerania was considered to be the property of both states, but with time it became fully incorporated into the German Empire and separated from Poland. The second invader was the Mongols, who struck the Kingdom of Hungary with great impetus. There they chased one of the tribes that was fleeing from them, the Połowce tribe, and ran into Hungary. Poland was an ally of Hungary, so this invasion hit southern Poland. Near Legnica there was a tragic battle where our prince, Henry the Pious, fell. He was beheaded while Silesia defended itself. For example, neither Wrocław nor Legnica were captured. The Mongols did not know how to conquer cities, but they rode their horses well. The third invader turned out to be the congregation of Marianites, which were the Teutonic Knights brought by one of the Polish princes. They were crusaders who degenerated into Teutonic Knights or criminals. They committed genocide on the Prussian people, who they did not want to baptize, but they established an enterprise. Knights would come from all over Europe to murder these Prussians. There was an ideology which said that the not baptized nation can be killed without regard, because they were not yet people until baptized. This was a crime committed by the Teutonic Knights. Unfortunately, when the German Empire invaded Poland, Władysław Łokietek asked the Teutonic Knights for help during the siege of Gdańsk. The Teutonic Knights chased away the Brandenburgs, but they in turn occupied Gdańsk. On November 13th, 1308, they carried out the massacre of Gdańsk. They murdered the Polish inhabitants and filled the city with their own. This problem lasted until the Second World War. Thus, they took away from the Kingdom of Poland not only Eastern Pomerania, but even Kujawy. Unfortunately, the remaining lands united under these conditions, but they covered only three so-called Old Polish territories. These were Greater Poland, Central Poland and Lesser Poland. It was not until the Mazovian Piasts paid homage to our ruler that two more Silesian principalities were bought out. The bishop bought the third duchy, where Oświęcim, Zator, Siewierz, among others, are located, and regained Kujawy. That was all.
Kupić jeszcze dwa księstwa śląskie. Biskup wykupił trzecie księstwo, m.in. Oświęcim, Zator i Siebierz, czy Siewierz, i odzyskać Kujawy. I to było wszystko.
That's all we've got time for today, for this episode. So it remains for me to say thank you, Professor, for your fascinating commentary on Polish history. Do join us again on Poland Daily History, where we look at the fascinating history of this exciting country.
Welcome to Poland Daily. In the next few episodes, we are going to take you around Kielce in the Holy Cross Mountains. We're going to talk to a statue of Jan Karski, see what it has to say. We are going to see the Bishop's Palace in all its splendor. And we'll look at a Stone Age quarry on the edge of town where Cro-Magnon man lived once upon a time, and where we live now. After that, we'll stay the night in a beautiful fortress. Yes, we're going medieval, not only with the fortress, but also with two castles, Mirov and Bobolice. These are twin castles over on the edge of Silesia. That is where Świętokrzyska gives way to Silesia. Mirov is being renovated, and Bobolice is the splendid finished product. So, lots of excellent stuff ahead. Stay with us for more of Poland Daily Travel. Why do we do it? We do it for you. Like us on Facebook, Poland Daily Travel, and like us on YouTube at Poland Daily Live. Thanks for watching. We really appreciate it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Poland Daily Travel. We're in the center of the Market Square in Kielce. That's where we are, right?
Yeah, Market Square in Kielce.
And we were talking before, off camera, I was saying about earlier when we were in the reservat, Kodzielnia reservat, that you can see all this hideous Soviet architecture. Why is Kielce like that? What happened here?
Well, Kielce, first of all, wasn't the most important town ever. Yes, this wasn't a very rich town.
Okay.
And then we had a great fire in 1800 where most of the architecture burned down and we had to start anew, and all the tenement houses which you can see around and the town hall.
These tall houses are called tenement houses.
Yeah,
right?
they come from the 19th century, most of them.
Early 19th century.
18th, 19th century. And this is actually where the life gathered. So this is where the people used to live, and Kielce wasn't that big. Then in the 20th century, the post-war period, well, we were under the sovereign of the communists, I would say, and this is where the architecture started. People needed to live somewhere, and those blocks of flats and districts started to grow around the city center.
In the post-war period.
In the post-war period.
So that's really the big growth of this area was in that time. I guess factories were built, they probably moved people here.
Yes, people moved here because of the factories, because of the open pit mines.
Yes, iron ore, copper, what else?
Stone, mainly stone.
Oh, mainly stone quarries,
sandstone.
Yeah.
So sandstone and limestone.
And limestone like at Kodzielnia,
yeah,
right.
but
okay.
more north and south of Kielce. Yeah.
Right. Very interesting, Magda. And what do we see? This is the town hall?
The town hall, yeah exactly. And I am standing on the wall around here. This is the outline of the old town hall, the first one, which burned down in 1800 actually.
So that's just here and going all around, right?
Yes, all around. And these are the chambers which are shown around here. And a funny fact about the Market Square. Well, have you been to Krakow?
Yes. We were just filming there.
Probably, or
Wrocław, I've been, but we haven't filmed there.
But the Market Square, they are perfect squares, right? Market Square.
Yeah.
And do you see a perfect square around here? No.
No.
No, and why is that?
I have no idea. It's a good question.
You have no idea, yeah. Because I have told you that the first settlement was around there. Saint Adalbert Church.
Right.
Then the church official came to build the cathedral. And the market came later. And the streets were already there. So they had to fit in the market.
Ah, so the square is not exactly square.
Yeah, it's not square.
Because there was just a medieval pattern to the streets.
Exactly.
Yeah, more or less.
They had to stick to that.
It's not exactly, it's slanted as well, which is unusual.
As well, because we are in the mountains, right? The Świętokrzyskie Mountains. So everything is not...
It's not even.
Here,
Równo in Polish, right?
Równo,
even, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so good. And Sandomierz is like that too, but even more.
Even more, yes.
Really slanted marketplace. What a beautiful town,
when it
by
comes
the way.
to Sandomierz, it is because of this the ground. Yes, it's not very solid. They had a little earthquakes around, yeah, and the earth moves there all the time, so you can see it in the buildings. And because it was easy for them to build those amazing underground cellars, which we can see right now in Sandomierz as well. This underground tourist route, right? Yeah.
Magda Oselka.
Oselka, yeah.
Not Oselnik.
Not
We're going to go
Oselnik.
check right now. I'm going to get
Let's
your
go.
card. I want to see. I want to thank you.
Thanks.
Boy, you've been great. It was really good on you just to come out extemporaneously, impromptu,
Happy to
and
have you.
walk around with us. You're fabulous. Okay, stay with us. We're going to a knight's castle. Yes, that's where we'll be staying tonight. And you know the place, don't you?
I do.
Zamek Rycerski.
Zamek Rycerski w Sobkowie.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
She says that really well. I think she
know.
must be local.
Probably.
Stay with us. Poland Daily Travel. Come on, Magda.
Okay, so you're
Should we go this way?
this way.
Well, here we are. I promised you a fortress, and look at this. This is the outside wall of the fortress at Sobków. Sobków is a tiny village with quite a long history. It's been here for about 500-600 years, and in one incarnation or another. And this fortress was built about 450 years ago, during the time of the great Spanish explorations of the so-called New World. It was new to them anyway. But this was very much the old world. The Zamek Rycerski w Sobkowie. That is the Knight's Castle in Sobów. I'm reading the sign. It's right there. And you can have a nice time here. As you will see, we're going to go inside and show you what it looks like. And I'll tell you more about the history. We'll see the river. We might see some animals. As you can see behind me, a lot of horses. Great place for horseback riding. And actually, I came upon this place by accident about 2 years ago. I was coming for a meeting in Kielce, and I wanted to stay someplace that was not obviously one of the business hotels in town. So I said, let's find something in the countryside. And this is what I found. And I'm very happy that I discovered this place. In fact, they shoot a TV series here. I don't remember the name of it, but the last time I was here, there were TV cars shooting this series. At any rate, here we are in the middle of the countryside, about 20 kilometers from Kielce, and about 6 or 7 kilometers, I suppose, from the castle at Hečeny, which we've gone to before in our travels. And there's a lot of work going on here today. They're building something. No, they're just moving wood in, I guess, for the fire. At any rate, let's go inside. It's really a very cool place, and I think you're going to like it a lot. So, stay tuned for the next installment of Poland Daily Travel from Sobków, from the Knight's Castle.